This year, Paul Daniels won the Golden Rose Award at the Montreux Television Festival, and the Variety Club of Great Britain celebrated his success at the Dorchester Hotel in London.
And we're all here to have a smashing time at the Dorchester Hotel in Park Lane in London and to honour the magical talents of Paul Daniels, who is the star of this special accolade, a free lunch from the Variety Club of Great Britain, an organisation that works tirelessly in aid of deprived and handicapped children all over the country. And here at this glittering occasion in London's West End are many of Britain's finest and most popular stars of show business who are about to celebrate the remarkable talents of a man whose television show won the coveted Golden Rose of Montreux. Paul Daniels, this is your lunch. And here with the finely honed phrased and well-chosen epigram is a man who over the years has developed his own special kind of magic on television. He's David Frost.
Chief Barker, distinguished guests, and our guest of honour, of course. I've been asked to begin by reading a couple of messages of apology from people who couldn't be here for this great lunch. One which reads as follows: "Regrot unable to bo wathjau today." That's from the editor of The Guardian. The BBC's newest superstar, Mr. Roland Ratt, sends his apologies and says, "Would love to be with you, but am still being vetted." Actually, they claim now that all they use MI5 for is to decode John Cole's dialogue. So anyway, that's... and also a message from Mrs. Thatcher to Paul to say, "I love your illusions, but I'm keeping all of mine." Actually, you know, she's quite a magician herself. I mean, she's made 3 million jobs disappear in the last 6 years, so pretty good going. She said today, though, unemployment is overrated. She said, there are thousands of jobs going begging in London, but then with the winter coming on, who wants to go begging in London? And there's apologies, too, from Oliver Reed. That's in case he does turn up. But we meet today, my friends, on an auspicious occasion. I mean, today is a very great day. I mean, today Harrods finally put up posters all over their store saying, "Shoplifters will be beheaded." And the Soviet Union announced today that they're adopting a system of one man, one vote. Premier Gorbachev will be the one man, and he will have the one vote. Meanwhile, I don't know whether you saw, there's the first annual rally across the road of Sinclair C5 owners. Do you see across the road? It's quite well attended out there in Hyde Park, and some of the drivers have come from as far afield as Marble Arch. It's really... Though there was one very nasty accident, actually. One C5 swerved off the road and plunged into a puddle. It was a very, very sad scene indeed. But there's lots of news today. For instance, did you see, it also said, in addition to the religious war with Iraq, Ayatollah Khomeini has admitted that he's also having trouble with the Kurds. But doctors say that's not unusual in a man his age. And in terms of the world of show business that is the Variety Club, a thief who broke into Victoria Principal's bedroom and made a grab for her jewellery was found guilty but insane. And at Bournemouth, of course, at Bournemouth, Arthur Scargill in tribute, the great Yorkshire magician in tribute to Paul, is trying his latest trick of sawing the Labour Party in half. And he's doing frightfully well at it at the moment. Paul himself has got a lot of plans in store. For instance, he's planning to host another new panel game based on a very popular game at the television centre on the 6th floor, which is BBC musical chairs. What distinguishes the game is that when the music stops, they put another chair in. But, I mean, he's got lots of plans. So I was lucky enough, actually, to be in Montreux this year at the time when Paul won. And the joy on the face of everybody from Britain, and particularly the BBC executives, they couldn't have been happier if, I don't know, if they'd signed up Sir Keith Joseph to present Beat the Teacher. I mean, they were really ecstatic, and we all were. And so it's my pleasure to say to the man who's the only man in Britain with faster hands than Barry McGuigan, probably, congratulations, bravo, we're delighted to be here. Congratulations.
Silence for Mr. Davy Kay. Davy Kay, official TUC delegate of the Arthur Scargill Northern Abatement Society and Member of Parliament for Littlehampton. I propose this resolution on behalf of all the donkeys, jackals, and underprivileged pygmies, and demand our fair share of running the British entertainment industry, which at times includes the TV. Which brings me to the reason, or one of the reasons, that I'm here this afternoon. To each his own. She's taller than me sitting down. I'm here this afternoon for a very specific reason, and that is to drink a toast and to say a few kind words about our guest of honour, a brother water rat, a very dear and great personal friend of mine, Jack Daniels. Oh, I'm sorry, Paul. That's what I'm drinking. I'm sorry about that. Cheers, Paul. Now, what can one say about Paul Daniels? Not a lot. Has he got sex appeal? No. Aren't you glad I said yes? Is he taller than me? Not a lot, thank you very much. But there's one thing that he has got, and that is talent. Here's a man with great talent, a famous man, a successful man in show business, 2 television shows, a radio show. He opens theatres, he opens galas, he opens bank accounts. But to give you a rough idea of his fame, he has 2 pages in that prestigious chronicle, Who's Who. I've got 2 words in the Jewish chronicle, who's he? But these are the things that don't worry, really. What really worries you is when they get malicious. That is what I can't stand. And one of the greatest things in our business, if they want to knock you down, the first thing they say, you're mean. I mean, they say Max Bygraves is mean. Just because he sings you need hands to fill your pockets, that doesn't mean that he's mean. He's a generous man. They said that Jack Benny was mean. Fallacy. A most charitable person. They say that Paul Daniels is mean. He is bloody mean. But in his case, as an excuse, it's hereditary. His father and mother, when he was a child, left him in the pram outside the store when they went in to do some shopping. They came out and wheeled the pram away. Got about 100 yards, and his mother gasped. She says, "My God, we've got the wrong baby." Her father said, "Keep quiet, it's a better pram." He's got lots of friends, including one lovely lady here today. One very lovely lady. I don't know where she's sitting, Paul. You did tell me, but I can't see her. Madame Flora, and she is a clairvoyant. She has discovered, she's staying at the hotel, and she has discovered a new way of contacting the dead. You go up to your room, pick up the phone, dial room service, and wait. I know you're all saying what a wonderful speaker he is, that little fellow. And being modest, I have to say, as you probably know, I am a great favourite with the royals. As a matter of fact, I did a show the other night, and King Faisal was in the audience. I know it was him because he called me over and said, "If you're a comedian, I'm King Faisal." I am not my usual ebullient self this afternoon, as is obvious, because I'm in the midst of matrimonial problems. I'm on my third divorce. My first wife, on our first wedding anniversary, I said to her, "Darling, I'm going to buy you a nice fur coat." She said, "I don't want it." I said, "I'll buy you a diamond ring." She said, "I don't want it." I said, "I'll buy you a Rolls Royce." She said, "I don't want it." I said, "Well, what do you want?" She said, "A divorce." I said, "I wasn't thinking of spending that kind of money." My second wife converted me to religion. I never believed in hell until after I married her. And my third wife that I've just got rid of, she was a right nutter. She used to close her eyes every time we made love. Couldn't bear to see me enjoy myself. Paul, I've spoken a great deal about you this afternoon. So I will finish with a little ode I wrote this morning. When Variety gives a luncheon to you, Paul, it's an honor that you always will recall. In the world that is so tragic, your contribution is just magic. So thanks, congratulations from us all. There are friends who want to fate you, there are girls who want to date you, and some who'll try to put you on the spot. So beware these flighty lasses with their tantalizing chassis. Indulge them just a little. Not a lot. Of your success there is no doubt, your magic show an odd one out. For the Montreux rose, golden rose that you begot, there'd be an increase in your fee from Auntie BBC with her usual benevolence. Not a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Chief Barker, distinguished guests, and Paul, of course, and ladies and gentlemen, I can't think, honestly, of a more thankless job than to follow the lovely Davy Kay. At least I'm a bit taller, which is one consolation. But Davy told me as soon as we arrived today that he used to be in a show with my wife some 35 years ago, I think. He told me that he was a lot younger and smaller in those days. But you know, Paul, we're here today to pay tribute to Paul, and I've had the pleasure of working with Paul a lot. I've done no less than 4 very long seasons with him, and it was a great joy. I saw him when he sort of started to be successful, and gradually saw his great initiative and talent bring him to where he is today. Now, I was sitting with Michael Crawford here, and we were talking about the fact that Paul, in recent years on television, has definitely reinstated the sort of speciality act which had sort of gradually died away on television. It was all down to situation comedy and sort of singing and so on. And in the conversation, Michael was asking me, having spent about 40 years in the business now, traveling around the music halls, if I remembered any unusual acts. And this has got nothing to do with the chat at all. But you know, many, many years ago, in about 1952, I think, I got to a theatre in the north of England to do a week. I was singing with a vocal group then. And a fellow arrived with a very, very pronounced limp at Bangor and put his music down. And we were all wondering what he was going to do, actually. And he turned out to be a tightrope walker. Now, you can't imagine anything more incongruous than a fellow with one foot shorter than the other being a tightrope walker. And he was the most cynical man I'd ever met in my life. But the reason I'm telling you this was I stood in the wings one night watching him work, and he walked across, and the business was diabolical. There was about 7 or 8 people, I think, in the first house. And he was halfway across the wire, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I remember he turned to the audience and stared at the half-dozen people that were there and said to them, do you know, he said, some nights I walk across here and I don't meet a soul. But you know, Paul, I've just come up here today really to pay tribute to you. When I met you some years ago, back in 1955, which was the second time I'd ever taken part in a magical act on stage, I got up and I assisted Paul when he was in the show with me. And we did 4 seasons after that. And I have never, ladies and gentlemen, in all my years in the business, I have never met a man with such creative ability and such talent to improve what he does all the time. He is a credit to our business. And when he won the contest at Montreux, I wasn't at all surprised. And when he came on my show earlier this year, I paid tribute to him then on the screen, and I paid tribute to him now. You're a credit to us all, Paul, and God bless you. Thank you very much indeed.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Davy Kay's warm-up man, but they altered the running order. It's a great pleasure to be here today. It's not only a great pleasure, it's rather inconvenient, because I'm rushing about a lot at the moment. I do PR for Tina Brown, and attacking royalty, really. How could you talk like that to Terry? And it's a great pleasure to be with my fellow speakers. Davy, who's an old friend, not of mine, but no, he is. Known each other for years. I was his humility coach for several years. Mr. Baldunican, who I had the great pleasure of working with earlier this year, amazing man. So laid back, he makes Perry Como look like Frank Carson. And enormously successful. Several agents turned Catholic. And not necessarily. And the other speaker, my ex-boss, David, who I worked with for several years, David Frost, an amazing man. He used to drive an open convertible with the roof down. And if it started raining, he used to press a button on the dashboard, and it stopped raining. But to business. That's why I'm standing up here and he's sitting down there. What can you say about a man, Paul, whose name is an anagram of a dull spaniel? If you can't spell, that is, work it out later. The brain, this is a man who understands Russell Harty's introductions. How do you define the art of someone like Paul? There is no way, no clear-cut way. The only way I could define his art is by telling a story, which I think sort of relates to it, which is about the Mexican gunman who arrived at a village, and outside the village was a whitewashed wall. And over the whole of the wall were targets, and in every bull's eye there was a bullet hole neatly drilled. And the gunman was fascinated, and he said, "Who did this?" And they said, "Juan did this." He said, "Bring him to me." And they brought a 9-year-old boy. And the gunman said, "You're Juan?" He said, "Yes, senor." He said, "You did this?" He said, "Yes, senor." He said, "How you do this?" He said, "I fire my gun all over the wall and then draw the targets around the holes." Paul Daniels, ladies and gentlemen. Did you see him at Silverstone 2 Saturdays ago? Jackie Stewart, this one, manacled, handcuffed, in a sack, in a crate, in the middle of the track. Jackie Stewart drives round the track, followed by a helicopter, an amazing scene. And there's going to be a flag if Paul's in trouble, and the flag waves, and Jackie Stewart smashes into the crate. And then Jackie Stewart gets out of the car, and it's Paul Daniels. I'm going to break the golden rule. I'm going to tell you how it was done. It was a trick. Now, what is left for our successful guest of honor? What worlds are left unconquered? What mountains left unclimbed? What peaks left unscaled? As the vet said to his receptionist. What can this man do? There's only one field he has not conquered. He won the Golden Rose this year, which, as I always say, is the World Cup of Light Entertainment. But there's only one field left for a man who has done more shuffles than Margaret Thatcher, more cuts than Keith Joseph, more card manipulation than a block vote. There's only one person in this country who could levitate our trade figures, who could saw our figures in half. Even then, the conjuring with unemployment might defeat him. But that is the only field left he hasn't conquered. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the next Prime Minister of this country. I toast you, Paul, a glass of water. Cheers, mate. As Val said, you're a credit.
Ladies and gentlemen, pray silence for Mr. Paul Daniels.
What else? Anyway, couple of puffs. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I never come to any of these kind of lunches, dinners, or whatever, with a written speech, because I usually go down and cross everything I've written off because somebody else has already done it. So what I do is I just sit with the postcard and make notes. But today was horrifying. I think, Michael, you've already been through this. He's up that end, yes. And he is one of the few who knows how nerve-wracking it is to come and be unable to enjoy the meal, to dare not drink the wine, that's as it came, and just in case you do something very silly, and then you stand up and do something very silly anyway. I have great respect for the work that Variety do, of course. I think we all must have that. And I even, therefore, went to the trouble to have the suit cleaned, you see. The ticket is still on. And surprise for Davy, who has mentioned, of course, my meanness and its hereditary state. I would like you to stand up, Davy. I'd like you to meet my mother and father, who are sitting over there. One of the few comedians who can leave and no one knows. Anyway, this is... But, you know, I'm honored that these men would stand up and talk about me. What you are probably not aware of is that I do not function alone. It's something in the back of your mind. But I have behind me a fabulous team. When Val talks and the others talk about the speciality acts that I get on the show, that's not me. Sure, if I see one, you know, we get them. But I have a team behind me, the like of which I don't think has been formed in generations. I'm the luckiest man in the world, I really am. I have Mr. John Fisher, who is a superb producer and knows more about the art of speciality and comedy than any other producer the BBC will ever own. He gets those acts. He's fabulous. He really is. I have Mr. Ali Bongo. Now, that's not his real name, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. That man can take cardboard and rubber bands, and for David Nixon before me and for me, he makes them all into magical things, and you just stand behind it, pull one thread, and it goes kazung. He's a genius. So is Mr. Gil Leaney, who you will probably not have heard of, unless you are a real keen fan of Wilfred Pickle's Have a Go show. He was the warm-up magician for a radio show, and turned out to have made most of the magical props in this century. He is a genius. I have Debbie McGee, a lovely little girl who seems to trip on and off and do nothing at all. So for all those people at that table over there who have really created this, including, of course, Mr. James Moyer, who has now increased my salary since the Montreux Festival, will you please give them all a round of applause? They're all sitting over there. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I really don't know why I've been honoured, unless it is the truth that earlier in the year I said the Arts Council should give more money to Variety. And I think you probably read it wrong. I don't know. We love to work for you, for Variety. It creates problems for artists, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll leave you with one story about those problems. I received a phone call, and I will say it is not from Variety. It was, would I compare a show in Scotland? And I said, yes, I will compare a show in Scotland. But I'm working in Blackpool. And they said, well, that's all right. We'll fly you up and we'll fly you back. Marvellous, I said. Wonderful. But I must be back for Monday because I'm appearing on the North Pier for Delphonse. And they said, yes. And then they phoned and said, we can't get an aeroplane to get you back. We can get one to get you up, but we can't find a single aeroplane to get you back. And I said, well, doesn't matter. I won't go. There's other fellas who can stay over. They can do the job. No, 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 we really want you. So I said, I won't go. And it really got to the stage where it was getting very close. But you have a duty, even when you want to work for charity, you have a duty to the people who are paying you a salary. You have to do the show. And a boy in our office, a boy. Anyway, we have a fixer in our office, and he said, I'll fly you back. Now, I know this man is a pilot. I say no, because I also know he's an idiot. There are people with pilot's licenses, Freddie Starr. Terrifies that thought. That terrifies me every time I take off. Anyway, so I said, no, I won't. No, 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 no. He says, I'll find a plane. I said, if the whole of the oil companies, and they were the people paying for this, if they cannot find a private plane, how can you get me back? Trust me. So I'm standing on the tarmac in Aberdeen with the agent, and we have our cases, a rabbit in a hutch. We had a table to produce the rabbit from, because that's crazy. We had my illusion box in miniature. We had soup bags and things like that. And out of the air we hear... And I said, well, that can't be ours. It's too small. It lands, and out gets Howard, the man from the office. And he starts to run. I said, what's the matter with him? And he's running towards us, and the pilot, in business clothes, is following with a little case. I thought, where's he found him? And as he passes me, Howard said, pretend you're buying it, it's a demonstration flight. There's more. I said, it's too little. The pilot said, no, Mr. Daniels, and he's looking around. He's a great salesman, this guy. Did you know you can unscrew the panels from the plane's wings and put things into them? I did not know that. He's tucking them out of the way so they don't get in the way of the bars that make the things go like that. And he's loading the wings, and then he sits Mr. Reg Parsons, who is well known to most of us, and he sits him in the back. Reg is a terrified flyer. I'm not feeling too good myself. Sits him in the back, and he passes him the Rabbit. And this is one of those little planes, 4-seaters, single prop, 3 wheels. And the whole plane falls onto its tail. Because of the weight of the equipment. The man does not stop selling. He walks all the way around the plane, gets hold of the propeller, and pulls it down. Now he says, all get in the plane. So we all got in the plane. He said, and sit leaning forward. We've got the Rabbit. Now he does all the checks, you know. Which always worries me. I don't know what they're talking about. I want to know. You don't know. And he gets clearance for takeoff. He says, now, chaps, he said, I'm going to drive down the runway, and when I shout now, all sit back. We go down the runway, and we go, and we take off because we all lean back. And he demonstrates how if you all lean this way, a plane turns right. You all lean that way. So now I'm up in the air with 2 maniacs. And this is all for charity, and we're flying along. I don't mind dying for money, but this is for charity. And we're flying along, and I have to get back to Blackpool. And we're approaching Blackpool when he gives us the news that Blackpool has a radar system which hasn't worked for about 2 months. He's just noticed this and said, we'll have to go on to Manchester because it's very foggy or low cloud or something. It's all the same to me. I said, I can't do that. We have to land. And so we approach Blackpool, and as we approach Blackpool, he tells them he wants to land there, and they say, you can't. We can hear it, the little speaker. You can't come down here because, you know, we've got this thing. So we couldn't come down. So he said, I've got to land. It's Mr. Daniels. He's got to be on the pier. Stardom. So they said, okay, and they have a word for it, which it's technical, I don't know it. What it means is they're going to open the windows and listen. We are flying along, and we are descending, and the voice comes through the tannoy. Are you a Cessna 345 6? Yes, you've just flown over us, you're heading south, which was good because we'd come from Scotland. And we're just going along, and he says, right, and he banks round and he goes a bit lower. Then we were heading west, we bank round, we go a bit lower. And I lean forward because we kept going down and down. I pointed out that Blackpool was the place with the tower that stuck up, you see. And he says, it doesn't matter, Mr. Daniels, we should be south of that. We're going down, and we're going down, and we're going down. This is the absolute truth. We suddenly popped out of the cloud, having been talked down and talked down, and about 6 feet off that wingtip, and 6 feet off that wingtip, there is a roof. And I've got a pretty good sense of observation, comes with my job. And we're down, and we're in a street, and people are going... And the pilot blasphemed and said, Jesus Christ, where are we? And I said, Pontins, you turn left. And we were in Pontins camp, just at the bottom. We turned left, popped over, and landed, and we got out. Reg decided he wouldn't go on to London with this man. And so it's just one story of the things we do for charity. But on behalf of myself, I'd like to say thank you for the honour. For the guests, so I mean, it's just a joy to be with these men. It really is. To you all for coming along here and helping swell the funds of Variety. To the people at home, if you have any left, send it to Variety. And of course, on behalf of all my fellow artists, yes, it is a hassle, and yes, it is sometimes a trouble, and yes, occasionally you get a duff aeroplane. But keep asking, because when you see the kids, it's very worthwhile. Thank you very much.
Well, it's back to work for Paul Daniels tomorrow evening when in his magic show there's an uncanny musical turn and a special magical version of The Legend of King Arthur from Tintagel. That's tomorrow evening at 8:30.